Hi, everyone. Welcome to Go Local Live at the Rhode Island State House. I'm Go Local News editor Kate Nagel. Thanks for joining us this Thursday afternoon as it's starting to fill up here pretty quickly. Lots taking place. Big one, of course, is the POSOX revised legislation going before House Finance this afternoon. But in the meantime, I'd like to welcome my first guest, Representative Sherry Roberts. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
You've been in studio with us before. I'm glad to catch you up here. We're getting into the waning weeks of the session here. But you've got a piece of legislation that you want to talk about, which you said would help Rhode Island taxpayers get their returns on time.
Yes, I'm hoping. This piece of legislation is H 7487 regarding personal income tax. And actually, this bill first came from Rep. Doreen Costa, and I liked it so much that I picked it up. But I think that taxpayers, our government bureaucracies hold taxpayers accountable with extra fees and things like that, and have to pay by a certain deadline. And I think that really the taxpayer should be able to hold government bureaucracies accountable also. So I introduced this bill, and what it does is that anybody who files the taxes who doesn't get them within 90 days from the filing would be able to hold government bureaucracies accountable in a way that they would have to pay by that time, or each day would be compounded by 12% daily for each day after that 90 days that they haven't received their tax refund.
I mean, how big is an issue? We've heard this from all around the state. You must have heard from constituents, I still haven't gotten my tax refund.
Yes, I've heard that quite a bit. So maybe if we could get this passed, this would help. So I think, if something like this were passed, obviously the Treasury would be more inclined to pay a lot faster.
And do you think that there's, clearly inherent pushback from the state just because they would incur an additional cost? But you talk about the cost of business if the taxpayer is beholden to getting things paid on time. You want the state to be held to the same standard.
Yes, I think it's only fair. I mean, really, it's supposed to be that the citizens run our government, right? So, but why is it? It seems to be in the reverse here in Rhode Island. So that's a problem.
So you talk about former Rep. Doreen Costa introducing it. Do you think this has the potential to potentially get bipartisan support?
I don't see why not. Yeah, I think so.
And what have your colleagues been, what's their reception been so far?
They seem to have liked it. So maybe at some point it could pass.
Well, it's an interesting piece of legislation, as folks have oftentimes said, where's my tax refund? Representative Roberts wants to hold the state accountable and pay if it's not within that 90-day time frame.
Right.
We'll provide a link to that bill for you after the fact if you're watching here. And as I said, the big issue today kind of came about quickly. This was the Speaker of the House putting forth revised legislation that not a lot of folks have even gone through yet. But what have you heard as this process has gone on from your constituents pertaining to the state's involvement and moving the POSOX potentially from a COI to ATAX?
I really haven't heard much about it. I know that they're rewording some things, revising it. I don't know what is in it exactly because I have not read it yet myself. But I'm still hearing from my constituents right now. They still don't want the deal. So we'll see what happens as time goes on. I like to get a look at it first before I can definitively say. But obviously, I'm going to do whatever my constituents want. So.
And have you had some outliers? Have you heard from anyone says, you should be behind this?
No. No.
Well, we're expected to hear from House Minority Leader Patricia Morgan. The Rhode Island Republican Party did come out in opposition to this. Again, it's going to be before House Finance this afternoon, this revised legislation that GoLocal has reported on. We're going to continue to keep a close eye on it. It is May 31st.
Yes.
We don't expect to be up here much longer.
No.
But we talked about the tax legislation. And that bill number again?
7487.
7487. This would hold the state accountable to provide returns to taxpayers within 90 days or themselves incur that cost that oftentimes taxpayers have to take on their end. Representative Roberts, I appreciate your taking the time to come on today.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to let you go around the corner, and we'll be back shortly here at the Rhode Island State House with our next guest. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Rhode Island State House for GoLocal Live. I'm GoLocal News Editor Kate Nagel. I'd like to welcome a familiar face, House Minority Leader Patricia Morgan.
Hi, Kate.
Gubernatorial candidate as well on the GOP side. I wanted you to come on today. The revised POSOX legislation is going before House Finance. This is a very recent development. We're in the final inning of the General Assembly session. What were your thoughts when you saw this?
I just question the basic premise, to be honest with you, that government should be investing in a baseball stadium. And that's the only way we can ever get economic development or economic expansion in Rhode Island is to have a stadium. It's ludicrous, the foundation of their thought that, I honestly, Pawtucket is going to be roaring in just a few years if only we spend $83 million on a baseball stadium. Their original premise is wrong. And beyond that, the people of Rhode Island know it's wrong, and they don't want this stadium. It's a private business. What are we doing creating this huge pot of money for a private business? Let them create their own pot of money.
So the new legislation talks about a TIF to make this possible with the income from what would ostensibly be built around the stadium. Is it a lot to be asking the taxpayers to saying, if we build it, they will come and pay this off?
You mean the whole thing is built on hopes and dreams? Yeah, hope is not a good economic development strategy. We can hope as much as we want. We look down at the 195 land. We are hoping for how long now? It's been 8 years? It's
been a while.
Longer.
Yeah.
We're going to hope that gets filled and that we have economic activity there. Now we're going to spend $83 million. I think it's going to be much more in the end. Well, absolutely we know it because of the borrowing costs that they don't put in there. So even with the borrowing costs, we're looking at north of $100 million, probably more. Hope is not a strategy. We actually have to go back. And I've said this over and over and over again, so she's tired of hearing it. But we have things that are just, we have bad practices, bad policies, too many regulations. There are things that we should be working on if we really want to ignite the economy in Rhode Island. But a baseball stadium isn't one of them.
Now, we saw the release from the Rhode Island GOP today, again, in opposition to this. You and your colleagues are pretty much all on board with the same position. If this goes through, and we've seen some polling numbers from the state as to where residents stand on it as well, what does this bode for the election year?
I keep wondering when the people of Rhode Island are going to understand that even though their rep smiles at them on the sidewalk, they're not voting on their behalf in their best interests. We've seen, how many things over the past many years? 38 studios, the tolls, now this. How many times do you get smacked before you say, I've got enough? We'll have to see.
Well, we are certainly in the full swing of election mode. We're going to keep an eye on the POSOX legislation as it moves to House Finance today. But I just want to talk with you because you've been everywhere. You are on the campaign trail. You were also in court.
I have gone to court now.
So tell folks a little bit about this. We've spoken about it before, but the legal battle that you're taking on.
That's right. So our state was blessed, quite frankly, to get $230 million from Google. It's called the Google Settlement Fund. It had to do with prescription drugs, illegal prescription drugs that they were allowing to be sold on the website. So we got that money. And it's been sitting over here, and it's been being spent, and nobody knows where it's been spent. But how I started thinking about it was after the Parkland shooting. Our schools need to be safer. They need to have more security measures around them. Anyone who's been to a school knows you can go in a back door, you can go in the front door. There's not a whole lot of security measures to keep a potential shooter on the outside so the kids inside are safe. So I was thinking about it, and I remembered the Google settlement money. I called the Attorney General's office. They are very uncooperative. I've got to tell you, they somehow think that they don't have to have transparency and accountability like the rest of us. I asked them how much money was left. They wouldn't tell me. We went to the budget office. the budget office didn't know. So that should be a tip off to everybody that this money has pretty much gone without any scrutiny. So I handed in an APRA request, which is an access for public records. The Attorney General denied it. So you appeal. Well, guess who you appeal it to? The Attorney General. So, of course, he denied that appeal. So at this point, I have gone to Superior Court, and I have a date with the judge and the Attorney General. It is on June 15th at 9:30 in the morning at Kent County Superior Court. I am asking the court to waive the $3,770 that the Attorney General wants to charge me to get those documents. Clearly, Kate, you must know that they're charging me that money to discourage me. I don't have $4,000.
And as an elected official, we've talked about this as well. Whether you're a constituent, whether you're in the press, you can provide APRAs. But from an elected official standpoint,
there is a state law that says that he must give them to me. I am a decision maker. I'm on the finance committee. I'm on the oversight committee. So there is a state law that says he's supposed to give them to me free of charge, but somehow he doesn't follow that law, doesn't want to follow it. I think it's troubling that the Attorney General doesn't want to share them with the people of Rhode Island. I think there is a real public interest here. I think we should know how the money was spent and why. I mean, I can give you some things that my preliminary investigation has ferreted out. We rented a big generator for $75,000. Could have been bought for $10,000. He bought, the Attorney General bought 3 Chevy Impalas from a dealership north of Boston. Okay? We have now the Attorney General's office. Who knew they had so many customer service requests? I want to see the documents that say they were overwhelmed with the people who were looking for service from the Attorney General's office. Because we spent $15 million on a brand new building. It has to be staffed. It has to be maintained for decades now. To give out, I don't know, BCI checks.
So last question with you, June 15th. I'm definitely going to mark my calendar for this.
You must come.
Do you have counsel or are you representing yourself?
I am representing myself. So the original bill was $3,770. I don't have that. Clearly, hiring an attorney would be even more. So I'm doing this, what's known as pro se. But the people down at Superior Court have been very helpful in showing me how to make out the forms and what to write and stuff. So I'll just go. I'm there representing the people of Rhode Island. I think you deserve the answers, and I want them.
Well, I'm glad you took the time to stop in to talk with us here today about the POSOX legislation and where you are in that fight to get the information pertaining to the Google money. Minority Leader Patricia Morgan, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you,
We'll talk
Kate.
soon. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back here at the Rhode Island State House.